My name's Cole. I hunt zombies for a living, not the kind you see in movies. These things learn. They watch, they wait, and they remember. The first time I saw one mimic a human, it was whispering, copying the sound of a man crying for help. We thought it was a survivor. It wasn't. It dragged two men into the dark before anyone could scream. That's when I understood something. This world doesn't belong to the living anymore. It belongs to the ones who adapt, and they have adapted better than us. The city I used to call home is just a rusted skeleton now. The streets are silent except for the wind scraping across broken glass. Out here, silence is the only thing keeping you alive, and the rules, 6 of them. Old hunters carved them on the gates before they died. We memorized them, live by them, because if you forget even one, if you break a single rule, they'll know. They'll smell it on you, and once they do, it's over. You stop being the hunter and start becoming one of them. The outbreak happened 12 years ago. No one remembers the exact day it began. Only that one morning the news stopped, the phones went dead, and the sky over the cities turned the color of ash. It wasn't an explosion, not even a war. It was just silence spreading faster than sound. By the time anyone realized what was happening, the world had already changed its shape. The governments fell apart before they could announce martial law. Some say it started in the north, where the permafrost melted and something ancient crawled out with the thaw. Others swear it began in the cities, a sickness that learned to wait, to mimic, to hide in plain sight. The truth doesn't matter anymore. All that's left are fenced sectors, scraps of land that call themselves civilization. Each sector is a cage pretending to be a community. Tall metal fences hum with current. Watchtowers blink red through the fog. We live by schedules, ration days, curfew nights, sirens that mark the hours like a heartbeat that refuses to stop. Every Friday, soldiers clean the perimeter, burning whatever the wind has carried too close. The air always smells faintly of oil and disinfectant, a reminder that safety here is chemical, not real. Inside, we pretend it's normal. Kids go to school. Vendors sell rehydrated fruit. People still get married, though no one has babies anymore. The sound of crying would make the fences feel thinner. My job doesn't belong to the inside. I work outside, beyond the wire in the husks of the old world. They call us retrievers. That's the polite word for what we do. We go into the ruins, collect infected bodies, and burn them before nightfall. The corpses are heavy even when they've dried out. Sometimes they twitch. Sometimes they whisper. We're told that's just gas escaping, but I've heard them form words. I've heard them say my name. That's why every retriever works alone now. There's a ritual to every trip. At dawn, I report to Gate 6. A medic checks my mask, my oxygen filter, and the scar on my neck, a bite that didn't turn. Then the gate opens and the sound changes. Inside the wall, the air vibrates with life. Outside, nothing. No birds, no insects, no wind that dares to touch the ground. Just a weight pressing against your chest like the earth itself is holding its breath. The roads are broken bones. Cars lie in heaps of rust and glass. I've seen trees growing through office buildings, their roots tangled around chairs and desks like they're reclaiming what's left of us. Every time I step over a threshold, I find the same things: a pair of shoes neatly left by a bed, a calendar still hanging on the wall, the last day circled in red. Most people ran. Some waited for help. None of them made it. We burn the bodies because it's the only thing that works. The infection doesn't die with the flesh. It lingers in the air, in the soil, in the places where blood turns black. Fire cleanses what medicine can't. Each flame is a small victory, a reminder that we still have control over something, even if it's just destruction. The rule says every burn must be seen from the sector walls, a promise that the job was finished, that nothing walked away. Sometimes I wonder who really needs that proof, the guards watching from above or us, the ones doing the burning. The pay's good, enough to buy silence in a noisy world. But it's the silence out there that sticks with you, heavy, endless, almost alive. You start to feel it watching you, like the world is waiting for you to make a mistake. That's why we follow the 6 rules. They keep us from slipping, from thinking too much, from listening too closely when something calls your name. 12 years of this life has taught me one truth. Humanity didn't win the apocalypse. We just learned how to live inside it. That night, the house felt colder than before. The kind of cold that doesn't come from the air, but from the walls. I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the creaks and sighs of old wood. Then I heard it, soft, steady footsteps from above, slow, pacing, but I'd rented the entire house. No one else should have been there. At first, I thought maybe it was the pipes or a raccoon in the attic, but the steps weren't random. They were measured, heel, toe, like someone walking back and forth. I turned off my phone, listening. The sound stopped immediately, as if it knew I was paying attention. That silence felt heavier than any noise. I checked the Airbnb listing again just to reassure myself. It said, entire home, no shared spaces. I blinked and suddenly it changed. Now it read, shared space with host. My stomach dropped. I refreshed the page, but it went back to normal. I told myself I was tired, jet lag maybe, but then I heard it again. The same pacing, this time closer, right above my room. I sat up, every nerve in my body tight. The ceiling light flickered. Something dusted down from the vent. A faint shadow passed by the hallway outside my door. I wanted to call out, but my throat locked up. My phone screen lit battery at 1%, and then it died. The house went completely still. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped into the hallway. The air smelled different, sharp, metallic, like rust or old blood. The staircase to the second floor loomed ahead, disappearing into darkness. Each step groaned as I climbed. The light trembled in my hand, catching flashes of old portraits on the wall. A man, a woman, a child, all smiling, but their eyes scratched out. I reached the top. Every door was closed except one, slightly open. A soft hum came from inside, almost like breathing. I pushed the door with my fingertips. The room was perfectly clean. Bed made, pillows fluffed, curtains drawn, nothing out of place, except the air warm, heavy, alive. I stepped closer, my flashlight slid across the bed frame, and that's when I saw it, a small tuft of hair peeking out from under the blanket, and then the sound, slow, wet, uneven, breathing. I froze. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything. But all I could do was stare as the blanket rose and fell. Someone was under the bed. Someone who was still breathing. I didn't want to believe it. The body was taller, thinner, but the scar, the one on the chin from the old campfire fight, it was there. The tracker blinked beside it like a heartbeat. We burned it without tagging. No report, no record, just fire and silence. But the whisper didn't stop, even as the skin blackened and split. It sounded like more than one voice then, layered, echoing through the hollow factory walls. That night back inside the fence, Mara couldn't sleep. She kept saying she saw someone at the gate. Said it looked like Reese, same uniform, same way of standing. But the cameras showed nothing. I told her it was just the dark playing tricks, but I could hear it too, a soft tapping outside my quarters, steady, like someone knocking in a code. 3 taps, pause, 3 again. Reese used to do that when we were on patrol, our signal for you good. I didn't answer. I just turned up the radio static to drown it out. But deep down, I knew something was wrong with that fire. Something watched us burn that body. Something that learned how to whisper names. And for the first time since I started this job, I realized the rules weren't made to keep the infected out. They were made to keep us from hearing them too long. I called Airbnb support, no signal. The bars slid to zero, the call tone got swallowed by silence. I tried again. The screen stuttered, jumped to the emergency dialer like invisible fingers were pressing for me. I swiped out. The app popped back open like an eye too bright, and the text changed right in front of me. Guest, Gregory H. Host, unavailable. I stopped breathing. I just watched. I thought if I blinked, it would normalize. And it did normalize, sort of. The letters bled like ink in water, then reformed into what I knew, Ben, entire home. Like the phone had accidentally told the truth and hurried to take it back. I wasn't alone, because the sound wasn't upstairs anymore. It was downstairs, heavy, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing the living room, rehearsing a monologue they delivered too many times. I reminded myself to say a name. Names pull things back into the world where rules apply. Greg. My voice lower than I expected. No answer. Only the living room light switching on. Not warm yellow, but clinical white, hard as a scalpel. It painted a sharp rectangle across the floor, climbed the stairs, and landed square on my shoes as if to say, "Come down." I went, one step at a time. One hand on the rail, the other making small circles with the flashlight so I had something to do. The house coughed a breath when I hit the bottom, that tiny crack you only hear at night when outside is colder than in. A thin coat of dust veered across the coffee table, one finger's track ending at a photograph. Old, curled edge. Colors leached like it had been dried by heat. A man standing in front of this house, shoulders open, a camera-taut smile, holding a keyring exactly like mine. Bottom right, a date 5 years ago. And beneath it, in writing that wanted to be calm, our first guest, welcome, Ben. My name is Ben. The room tilted, not the walls, my stomach. My phone buzzed, not my setting. A long, bone-deep vibration. The app reopened, this time to the listings gallery. But instead of bright, wide-angle shots, I saw night candids, harsh flash on glass, doorways with someone just out of frame. Cheerful caption at the bottom, guest memories. I flicked my thumb. First image, living room at night, TV reflecting a blurred figure. Caption, welcome, Ben. Second, hallway, a hand on the banister, a watch exactly like mine. Caption, returning late, Ben. Third, bedroom, the bed I just used smoothed flat. Caption, we like it neat, Ben. The last wasn't a photo, a 3-second loop. A man lifting his head from the empty frame, eyes opening into the flash, pupils shrinking too slowly, like light was new to him. He didn't look like Greg's avatar. He looked like someone who had stayed too long. I dropped the phone. It bounced, flipped, landed face up. Front camera on. In the screen, the living room framed me empty, except for a soft blur along the left edge, like breath on glass. The blur thickened, slid across as if a hand were tracing the outline of a face. I turned, only air behind me and heat shimmer rising over a cup of coffee I hadn't made. The mug sat on the mantel. Nothing special, except it held the most frightening temperature in the world. Not hot, not cold. Warm. Warm means recent. Warm means someone was here just long enough for the house to keep their fingerprint in heat. Greg. Softer now, as if a name could bruise. The front door chain sighed, the sound of metal moving itself. The hinges were newer than the door. The strike plate screws were chewed being turned and turned. Someone had worked on keeping this door a door more than most people work on their lives. I tried the knob. Locked. I pulled. The chain lifted and settled with polite finality. The board under my right foot trembled, a feeling like laughter. The TV coughed to life, gray bands, then a camera feed. Not the living room, upstairs hallway. Black and white. Framed so the door I'd left ajar sat dead center like a mouth. I could hear only electronics now. Soft hiss, a thin whine that tells you a thing is on even when your eyes closed. On the feed, a shadow moved inside the open room. A solid shadow with weight. A shoulder, half an arm, a hand with a chipped nail like someone who's hammered without gloves. The hand reached below the bedline and paused the way a hand pauses when it's listening. Then withdrew, not a flinch. A decision. The living room lamp brightened a fraction, like an eye adjusting. The TV cut to the kitchen. A chair slid out. A cabinet opened. A coffee scoop tapped the counter, placed with bored habit, back to the upstairs. The central door was less open than before, though I hadn't moved. For a second, the listing had said shared space. I snatched up my phone to photograph the proof, to nail the mind's bargain into the wall. The instant the camera app opened, the TV went black. My screen showed only my confused face, white rectangles of window glare, and over my shoulder, the suggestion of a person standing where no one stood. I lowered the phone. The suggestion remained not a body, the space a body would take if asked. Slow shuffling from the left hallway. A second mug, I swear it hadn't been there, sat centered on the coffee table, an invitation for the ghost of my arrival. Under it, a photo face down. I didn't want to turn it, so of course I did. Same man, same key, same smile, different caption. Our first host, welcome, Greg. I said my name out loud like a rope, Ben. The room sang it back, Ben in the fridge compressor, Ben in the light ballast, Ben in my blood. But on the wall, a new frame had appeared among the others, my face, and the nameplate was not mine. A brass tag screwed in, engraved like a trophy, Gregory H. I stepped closer. 2 old screw holes gaped beside it, raw plaster, just changed. The house hadn't added me, it had traded me. The stairwell breathed. The upstairs door opened wider, courteous, inviting. My legs went without permission. The treads remembered my weight. They groaned in exactly the places they had for someone before. At the landing, a second smell joined coffee, that cheap blue laundry detergent that never fully rinses out. The room was clean in the 5 p.m. Hotel way, surface clean, photo clean. Bedspread taut enough to bounce a coin. Pillows posed, curtains drawn. But under the bed, the air was warm. Human, I bent without wanting to and felt that breath, slow, human. A metronome no living thing would choose. Hello, because what else? The breath stopped, a drag across wood. A hand slid into view back first, like someone unaccustomed to daylight. Fingers splayed, receiving the beam like light had weight. A scar across the ring finger. Exactly the shape of the scar I got when a kitchen knife snapped 10 years ago. I cut the flashlight into the gap. Dust danced without landing. The hand withdrew, not startled, decided. The door behind me closed softly. The handle turned on its own until it pointed at the floor. The lock clicked round and deep like a coin dropping into a well. The app opened again by itself. The header photo spun like a slot machine and stopped on a smaller room I hadn't seen. Cinder block walls, a single bulb, a chair. Bright caption, additional space below, great for long-term stays. The basement. The house wanted me there the way tide wants a boat. The upstairs light shrunk. The hall light breathed. Far below, a chain scraped concrete. I told myself don't and went. Each basement step colder than the last. The door at the end, the kind you see in listings and scroll past, had a hook and eye latch. The eye knew the hook old, polished by too many touches. I lifted it. The air tasted like pennies. Bulb blinked and on. A small room, too small to deserve the word. A table, 2 chairs, coffee maker, a power strip with too many adapters humming like bees. On the table, the same smiling man's photo, the fresh ink still wet shining. Under it, same hand, our first guest to welcome, Ben. The date hadn't changed, everything else had. The table was set with pairs of photos, a face, a room, face, room, face, room. Each pair matched like people married to places. Some faces had faded to near blank. Some rooms had only changed bedding or lamp angle. My pair in the face. This room. You're right on time, someone said gently, like correcting a child. The voice sat before the body did. Then the body arrived, assembling from shadow into a man. Jacket, hands, the calm from the photograph, keys. The scar on his ring finger matched mine, and the relief of recognition was the worst thing I'd felt all night. Greg, though I knew, he smiled the way people smile at their reflection on a day they can forgive themselves. You can call me that, he said. It doesn't last. The coffee maker kicked on by itself. Water gurgled through old grounds. The smell was life inside death. He poured 2 cups, set one before me, set one at the place already laid with my photo and my room. I'm not staying, I said. My voice sounded like hearing myself through a wall. Everyone says that, he said mildly. He sipped. It burned him. He didn't flinch. Day 1, you're the guest. Day 2, you're the host. Day 3, you remember what you were and what you'll be, and that's when the house helps. Helps what? Helps you stop wanting anything else. He set his cup exactly on a ring already stained in the wood, orbit traced and retraced. We overbooked, he went on conversationally, absurdly. City people chasing quiet. They brought their noise. The house got full. It made room by trading us. My throat was dry. He tilted his head. By naming you right, he said. Names stick to houses better than paint. Look, from under the table, he pulled a tin of engraved brass tags like the one upstairs, tiny plates with screw holes. He fanned them like cards. I saw BEN in too many fonts. Greg twice as often. Some were worn thin where fingers had worried them in the dark. You're lying, I said, because I needed a sentence to stand on. You're late, he said softly, and slid my photograph closer to my cup, as if aligning them might correct the cosmos. The bulb brightened until the filament sang. Concrete thrummed with pipes that didn't exist. Upstairs, a chair fell. A light came on. A door opened for no one. I can leave, I said. I can. You can check out, he said. You won't be gone. I stood. The chair made the sound of regret. He didn't try to stop me, worse than if he had. Monsters make sense. Polite men in basements do not. The stairwell tightened around me like a throat. The living room welcomed me back with the TV already tuned to my hallway, my door, my hesitation, a rerun. The front door waited, chain smiling. The chain lifted when I reached and laid itself down when my fingers closed on air. I pressed my forehead to the wood. Cold came through. The keyhole stamped itself into my skin. Behind me, gentle, 2 cups placed on wood. 2 chairs slid in. A page turned in a book that wasn't there. My phone buzzed again. The listing had returned to its prettiest lie, bright photos, 5 stars, entire home. I tapped host. Not a smiley beanie guy with a dog. A gray square where a face should be, and beneath it one word, Ben. The description updated, self-check-in, key under the rock by the porch. A new line flashed, then erased itself. Owner on site for special requests. I closed the app. The TV changed to a feed I did not want. The driveway, the little path from the road, the rock by the porch. In the feed, a car pulled in. Headlights sliced the pines into bars. A person got out, stretching the way you stretch when you've driven just long enough to tell yourself you've come far enough. Weekend bag. Phone up to the porch light to check the number. A caption ghosted across the bottom without pixels to carry it, as if written straight on my eyes. Our next guest, welcome. The last word didn't render. It didn't have to. Every vowel in the room bent toward me. Somewhere below, the coffee maker clicked off. Heat rose from the cup near my hand, and the steam wrote my name in the air like a child on a cold window. I didn't drink. I didn't run. The house didn't ask. It only asked the question houses ask when they recognize you, the soft, relentless question of a place that has already made a place for you. I stood and watched the front door not open. I stood and watched the driveway fill with someone else's lights. I stood feeling the brass tag in my pocket, heavy as a small truth I didn't remember taking. You can call me Greg, I said to the room just to see how the words fit. They fit too well. Upstairs, a bed breathed. The floor counted 2 careful steps. The listing glowed with a 5-star promise. And not far, very near, a car door closed. Because Rule 6 is the only one where there's no second chance. Here's what you need to understand. In the cities, light doesn't behave right anymore. You walk past a window and sometimes your reflection lags like it's a second behind you. You stand under broken fluorescence and your outline shakes even when you're standing perfectly still. Most of that is just interference, static. The world glitching where it's broken. That's normal. What's not normal is when the shadow keeps moving after you stop. The first time I saw it, I thought I was just tired. I was in a stairwell, concrete walls, no windows. My flashlight was pointing down at my feet. I reached for my canister and out of instinct, I glanced down. There I was, my shadow on the steps, crouched. Except I wasn't crouching. I was standing. My shadow wasn't. It was lower than me, like it had decided to bend its knees, curl in, brace like it knew something I didn't. Then it looked up. Not the way a person looks up. The way an animal does all neck first. I didn't test it. I didn't measure it. I didn't call for Mara. I didn't think. I ran. I ran so hard my vision went white at the edges and I didn't breathe again until I saw the sector lights. Later, Mara told me why that was the right call. She'd seen someone do the opposite. She told me about Rios last year. Rios saw his shadow peel away from his boots in an old grocery store. Instead of running, he froze. He leaned in. He tried to line his hands up with it like a kid making puppets against a wall. His shadow reached back, not fast, almost gentle. And when it touched his hand, every light in the store went out at the same time. When the power came back 3 seconds later, Rios was gone. Not torn apart, not dragged, just gone. But his shadow was still there on the floor, standing alone, facing the rest of the team. The recording from that day, because yes, we record, was sealed by command. Sector security only, they said. That's what they always say when they don't have an explanation. Rule 6 is not about running from danger. Rule 6 is about refusing an invitation. That's all of them. 6 rules. People listen when I speak them now. They think it's experience. They think it's authority. It isn't. It's survival math. Every rule we keep buys us one more sunrise. Every break feeds them. And if you're wondering who wrote them first, who carved them into Gate 6 with shaking hands, who figured out what not to do by doing it wrong, I can tell you this much. None of those names are alive anymore. But sometimes when I'm outside the fence, when the wind dies and the world goes still enough that I can hear my own pulse in my mask, I swear I can hear them. Not screaming, whispering, reciting the rules back to me, like they're making sure I don't forget, like they're making sure I don't join them. That night Mara broke rule. We weren't scheduled to run past sundown. We weren't even supposed to be in Sector Gray after dusk. It's an abandoned commuter district, long sight lines, too many glass reflections, nowhere to anchor a perimeter. We'd already tagged 14 bodies and burned 9. We should have been on our way back 2 hours before dark, but Mara wouldn't leave. I saw Reese, she said. At first I thought she meant his body. That happens sometimes. You recognize a boot tread, a torn patch from someone's old jacket, a familiar scar on a jaw that shouldn't still exist. You pretend it gives you closure. You pretend it hurts less, but she didn't mean that. No, she said, voice thin behind the mask. He waved at me. That's when I should have pulled her in, called it, dragged her back to the truck if I had to, but I hesitated. That was my mistake. I'd known Mara for 3 years. She doesn't hallucinate. She doesn't scare easy. She doesn't imagine comfort out here. So when she slipped away from the truck and went deeper between the buildings, past the old pharmacy, past the collapsed bus, I followed. The sun was already below the horizon. The light wasn't light anymore. It was that flat dead blue the world wears right before it gives up to full dark. Our visors were already struggling. Every corner looked like movement. Every shadow felt occupied. Mara, I whispered, breaking Rule 3 without even thinking about it. We have to go, now. She didn't answer. I caught up to her in what used to be a parking garage. The roof had pancaked down to chest height in places, forcing us to duck and crawl. The concrete pillars were cracked open like old bones. Something had smeared black along the far wall, not splattered, not sprayed. A palm print, long fingers, too long. Mara was standing at the far end, back turned to me, shoulders rising and falling like she'd been running. Her burner was on the ground beside her boot. That's wrong. You never set your burner down outside the fence. You sleep with it touching your leg. You shower with it within arm's reach. You don't leave it on the floor in the dark like you're done eating. Mara, I said again, closer now. Talk to me. She lifted her head. Even before she turned, I felt the wrongness start. It's something I've learned to trust, a pressure in the air. Like the room is bending around a point that isn't supposed to exist. The first thing I noticed was that she was too still. Mara never stands still. She bounces on her heels, rolls her shoulders, shifts her weight. Hunters don't go motionless, not out here, not unless they're dead. Then she turned. Her mask was off. He laughed, a soft, exhausted sound. That's what I said too, first night. You tell yourself it's just a weird dream, a trick of the listing, a story to post later. Then you realize there is no later, only the next guest. The house groaned above us, a long, stretching sound like old wood yawning awake. What is this place? I asked. It's a stay, he said simply. That's all it ever promised to be. I took another step backward, bumping into the staircase. A flashlight beam stuttered across the wall, and I saw photos lining the concrete. Hundreds of them. Each one showed a different face, each seated at the same table, same smile, same mug. Different people, same eye, same fatigue. In every picture, the caption at the bottom read, "Our first guest, welcome, Ben." I felt my throat close. He stood up slowly, like his bones were remembering how to work. The house keeps its promises, he said. One check-in at a time. I shook my head. No, I booked this place. I saw the reviews. 5 stars, real people. He chuckled. Yeah, me too. I left one actually. It said quiet, comfortable, would stay again. And I did. The light dimmed, the bulb overhead humming like an electric bee. Shadows from the stair rails stretched along the wall, long and skeletal, pointing toward me. He took another step closer. The temperature dropped. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with something sour like iron or burnt dust. Do you know what happens when a place gets too many guests and not enough hosts? I didn't answer. It balances the books. Behind him, the photos began to shift. One by one, the faces started to blur. Eyes turned to static. Mouths froze in half-smile, until there were only 2 pictures left untouched, his and mine. I tried to run. My foot caught the step, but the door above slammed shut. "No rush," he said gently. "You're already home."
Get away from me!
I turned the flashlight on him, but the beam fractured, scattering into dozens of little reflections across his face. Every time I blinked, he seemed closer. "You're not me," I hissed. "Aren't I?" he said. "Same scar, same jacket, same story. We all start as guests. Then we learn to stay. The house needs someone to welcome the next one." The lights flickered again, and the walls seemed to breathe inward, outward, the pulse of something living. He gestured toward the table. "Sit, Ben. Stop calling me that." He smiled wider, and the sound that came out of his mouth wasn't laughter anymore. It was the creak of floorboards, the whine of pipes, the rattle of locks. The house was speaking through him. "You brought your name here," he said. "You gave it to the listing. The house read it. Now it owns it." I turned, slamming my shoulder against the basement door, but the knob wouldn't budge. The wood felt soft, spongy, as if it were breathing back. Behind me, I heard the clink of ceramic. He'd poured another cup. "Drink," he said. "It's easier that way." "Why me? Why anyone?" He shrugged. "Because you booked the wrong night." I screamed. It sounded like someone else's voice. The photos on the walls began to change faster now, the faces flickering between guests, all whispering, their mouths opening and closing in silence. Then one voice broke through, distorted and layered. "Check out, check out, check out." The man, the other me, walked to the wall, placed his hand over the newest photo. His palm pressed against it like he was soothing a wound. The image beneath the glass started to bleed, red ink spilling from the edges, running down like tears. When he turned back to me, the blood was on his hand, my hand. "Do you get it yet?" he asked. I couldn't speak. "The house doesn't haunt people," he said. "It keeps them. It's easier to rent when there's always someone home." The floor groaned. The photos rattled against the walls, shivering like teeth. He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. I could smell the same cologne I'd sprayed that morning. For a split second, I saw two things at once. Mara's features boiling, peeling, trying to hold together, and something else underneath, pale and wet and too smooth, like muscle that had never had skin on it before. It didn't scream. It just made a sound like fabric tearing underwater. It stumbled back. And then, all at once, the rest of the parking structure woke up. Bodies I hadn't even seen under cars, behind pillars, slumped in piles, all of them lifted their heads in the same slow, puppeted motion and turned toward us. Dozens, maybe more. They didn't rush. They didn't attack. They just watched, waiting to see what I would do. Waiting to see if I would stay until full dark. Rule 1, never work after sunset. I grabbed Mara's burner off the ground, the real one, still warm from her hand, and I ran. I didn't try to finish the burn. I didn't tag the site. I didn't do cleanup. I broke protocol so hard command could have had me spaced for it in the old world. I just ran. By the time I hit gate 6, the sky was full night. The watch lights caught me in a white blast. I was half sobbing into my mask, shouting, "Open, open, open." They hauled me through decon like I was radioactive. Someone kept asking, "Where's Mara? Where's Mara?" I couldn't answer at first. When I finally could, I told them the truth. She broke rule 1. I said, and then quieter, and something else put her back on. They didn't write that part in the report, but that night, long after shutdown, I heard knocking on the exterior steel, smiling, like she'd already decided I was going to say yes, like she just needed me to say it out loud. That's when I realized something worse than death is out there. They don't just want to copy us. They want us to let them in, smiling, like she'd already decided I was going to say yes, like she just needed me to say it out loud. That's when I realized something worse than death is out there. They don't just want to copy us. They want us to let them in. They found the house empty 3 days later. No sign of Greg, no sign of me. The front door was unlocked, lights still on. In the kitchen, 2 identical key rings side by side on the counter. One labeled guest, one labeled host. The coffee pot was still half full, still warm. Police reports said there was no sign of a struggle, no fingerprints that didn't match mine, no Greg on any booking record, not in the system, not in the database, not in the world. They said maybe I left in the middle of the night. Maybe I made him up. Maybe I never even checked in. But there was one thing no one could explain: the security footage. The door camera caught me arriving at 7:43 p.m. just like I remember, carrying the bag, unlocking the door, stepping inside. But at 7:45, another figure appeared behind me. No car, no sound, just me again. The feed looped, glitched, then cut out. The next frame was empty. No one leaving, no door closing, just the porch light flickering the same way it did that night. The listing stayed down for a while after that. Airman marked it under investigation. A month later, it came back up. The Pines Retreat, entire home. Same photos, same cozy captions. Perfect for solo travelers. Quiet, peaceful, always spotless. Same 5-star reviews, different dates. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The latest review was posted just last week. Username Gregory H. Lovely host, coffee was fresh, would stay again. I scrolled to the bottom and there it was, the host profile. Host Ben, my photo, my smile, my eyes, the bio read. Happy to welcome new guests. Self-check-in available. Key under the porch rock. I wanted to believe it was just a glitch. Maybe an algorithm recycling old data, but the timestamp said updated 3 days ago. The same day they found the house. The same day the coffee was still warm. The same day my keys were left behind. I keep thinking about what he said. The house needs someone to welcome the next one. I still hear footsteps sometimes when I try to sleep. Sometimes I dream of the stairs, the hum of that old bulb, the smell of fresh coffee. Sometimes I dream I'm standing in that living room again, waiting for the headlights to appear. And sometimes I dream they already have. The engine shuts off. The car door closes. Someone new steps onto the porch. They look tired, holding a bag. They scroll through their phone, checking the address. The porch light flickers once, welcoming. And from somewhere behind the door, a voice I know by heart says softly, "You're right on time, guest." This morning when I woke up, there was ash on my boots. I didn't track it in. The pattern was deliberate, 6 small smudges across the floor forming a half circle. The same pattern we used to mark a safe burn zone. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is where it loops back. Another sector, another hunt, another name to burn out of existence. The rules still stand. I still recite them, but I don't think they protect us anymore. I think they just tell whatever's out there where to find us next. And tonight, before I shut my eyes, I swear I heard it again, through the static, through the hum of the generator, soft, patient, familiar. Rule 1: coal never work after sunset. Then a pause, and in the silence that followed, a second voice whispered, my voice answering from the dark. I know.